Just on that other task, yeah, just on that other task force, Heather, I'm meeting with Craig Shanks today to get that other information. Okay, just so you know.
Okay, thank you. We're just waiting for Councillor Elmsley. We'll just give him another minute and then we'll get started. Holly, did you hear anything from Councillor Elmsley?
I don't think so. I just had Amy as regrets.
Okay.
Right,
Councillor Elmsley is on a remote location, so he might be having a hard time getting in, but I know it's on his radar.
Okay, we'll give him another minute and then we'll get started. If it's
oh, here I have an email. Oh, he wants the link.
Okay.
Just I'll send him.
Alrighty, we'll just wait for Holly to get that sent and then we'll get started and Councillor Elmsley can join through. You ready, Holly?
I'm ready, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you had sent that through to Councillor Elmsley.
Oh, sorry,
So
yes, I did, yes. Well, I've sent it.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. We'll get, we'll call order to the meeting and welcome everyone. Today is July 20th. I can't believe it's this far into July already, and I hope everyone had a great weekend. I assume everyone has looked at the agenda and we'll do the adoption of the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to approve? Thanks, Councillor Richardson.
I'll second.
Motion to second?
I'll second, Ron.
Okay. Councillor Ashmore, is there any discussions? Are there any changes, admissions, edits? Seeing none, I'm going to do it a bit opposite and say, is there anyone opposed to the approval of the agenda?
Can I just add one thing that I did go back through the minutes of the last meeting and corrected a name that I was spelling wrong. So the ones that are up on the website in the agenda package are correct.
Okay. Alrighty. With nothing to add to the agenda, are there any opposed? And if seen no opposition, then the motion is carried to approve the agenda. And is there any pecuniary interest that need to be declared from anyone today? Seeing none, we'll move on. The adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting. I assume everyone received those and have reviewed them. Would someone like to motion to approve the minutes as presented? Penny, thank you. Seconder? Councillor Dunn, thank you. Is there any discussions about the agenda, or I'm sorry, about the previous minutes that were sent? Any additions or omissions or anything that anyone noticed? All right, again, I'll do the anyone opposed to the previous minutes? See none, so the motion to adopt the minutes from the previous meeting is carried. I didn't see any business arising. Did anyone have anything to add to this from any of the work that's been done between the previous meeting and today? We're moving right along on this today. Before we get to the working group updates, I just wanted to thank all of the task force members that reached out to other community members to help make the working groups more fulsome and add more depth to them at a community level. So thank you so much for your time and your contacts to do that. The funding working group update, I'll take that as that's the working group that I'm on. So we had our first meeting last week. We are going to be creating a master list that will include all of the City of Kawartha Lakes funding opportunities, and we'll prepare recommendations to broaden access to the remainder of 2020 and all of 2021 for individuals and organizations to access those funds. We'll be doing a review of all provincial level and all federal level funding opportunities. So once we have the master spreadsheet created, that will be provided out to the public through our task force website. We do plan to have another meeting on August 4th to discuss the recommendations in preparation of the August council meeting. Holly, as a point, do we need to motion that report or do we just accept it as presented?
I would say probably just as presented.
Okay. So yes to motion, I'm sorry.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Would someone like to make the motion to approve the funding working group update?
I'll make
Councillor
the
Elmsley,
motion.
thank you. Someone to second?
I'll second Ashmore.
Councillor Ashmore, thank you. Is there any discussions or would anyone like to add anything to the report as presented? Seeing none. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question. What's the last date to contribute to that spreadsheet for chief bankers?
The 27th of July.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Again, I'll do the opposite. All opposed to the report? Seeing none, the funding working group report as presented has been motioned. And I believe Linda will be doing the gaps assessment working group update.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yeah,
Yes.
great. So Marina, I trust that you will jump in as the chair if I'm leaving anything out. Amy had asked me to provide the report because I took the notes that day. So the gaps assessment working group met on July 14th. We provided an overview between Councillor Richardson and Amy for the new members who aren't part of the task force, just around the context of the task force and what the working groups were hoping to accomplish. We had a few action items for the new members, including sending out the information that had been previously sent out to the rest of the task force. So I noted that Rod has done that. So everybody is in receipt of those Excel spreadsheets and that sort of thing for the further context. We talked about the Jump in Kawartha Lakes tool, and again we provided the new members an overview of what that would look like as context, because our focus of course is generating a survey. So we focused a great deal of our discussion on the areas that we would like to cover in a survey, and so those areas revolved around human resources, PPE and infrastructure needs, funding, as well as innovation and gaps. So we looked at things like under the human resources realm, we looked at whether or not questions around whether or not staff would have access to mental well-being and health supports. Do staff have anxiety about returning to work based upon the continued health threat posed by COVID? Will staff be able to fully return to work in the different agencies based upon some possible limitations around things like childcare, potential part-time schooling, and other issues that may arise? We propose that we look at asking what agencies to forecast if they felt those needs might be different in 3 months or 6 months, and that we have a space under each of these realms for open-ended comments. We did decide that we would try to focus very much on multiple choice and try to anticipate what a lot of the topics would be, because we felt that there would be a higher rate of return if we made the survey very friendly and not too lengthy. So in other words, not everybody wouldn't have to write an essay and take the time to do that, because we know the rate of return would probably be much lower if that was the case. So similar questions around PPE and infrastructure, looking at costs and whether or not they'd be prohibitive. Looking at funding and whether or not folks feel they've had a decrease in funding related to COVID and what that percentage might be. Do we anticipate this being different in 3 months, 6 months? Again, that forecasting. And then under innovations and gaps, looking at trying to be able to capture if there are other gaps that we haven't mentioned yet, as well as whether or not there's some innovations that agencies could share, because we know that agencies and organizations have been on the ground since March, like the rest of us, trying to problem solve things as they arise with COVID, and that a lot of organizations and agencies have done some pretty innovative things to respond and try to still be able to provide service and supports robustly. So sharing those could be helpful as well. We left it at continuing to email each other with updates around if there are some additional questions we would like to have, trying to fine tune that by email in the next week or so that we can forward all of that to Brenda. Who can then hopefully configure that into a nice survey that would go into the tool. So that is where we left things. Marina, can you jump in if there's some other pieces that should be highlighted today?
Oh, I think you covered it all and very concisely. Thank you.
Thanks. So any questions on that?
Thank you so much, Linda. You guys had a really great meeting. I did get the notes, and a lot of great work, and I'm excited to see the matching up of the funding list and the survey results, and so that's really great. Is there any other follow-up or questions? I know Linda had asked, but just before we get to the motion to approve the GAPS Assessment Working Group report as presented, would someone like to motion that? Councillor Elmsley. Seconder, Councillor Richardson. Is there anyone opposed to the information as presented? So all in favor is carried. Thank you. We're on to item number 8, the engagement strategy. I didn't know if Brenda had anything else to add after last week's presentation about jump in and any other further information.
Thank you. I don't really have any updates other than just to clarify what we're going to need to make these sites live. So we did decide that you would have 2 separate sites, one specific for organizations and one for the public. So the framework for the public one is ready to go as soon as we have something to populate in that. We don't want to just send it out without asking people to engage with us in a certain way there. For the organizational one, it's done by email. So I will have to set up a group. So if you have a list of the people that you would like to send this survey to, we can start with that and add on to the group if there are others after that initial list. But if you could forward me that list, I will get that group set up so we're ready to go with that site when the survey is ready. There's also, like, for broader engagement, we might want to think about working with our communications division to get some general information out about what the task force is doing, perhaps highlight the different focus areas and let people know what work you're doing with this group, to just kind of put it out there. So if you have any suggestions, I can take those and help work with communications, draft something for your review. Just let me know what you will need.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone have, so just to go back to the public site and the organization site, I think from my notes, and Linda and Marina, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that once the survey's ready, that's when we'll launch that public piece of it. And then also at the same time will be the list of organizations to open up the organization private site. So I know that we're working towards that. So if anyone that's in the funding working group has anyone they'd like to add to that list, then I would suggest send me the contact information and I'll make sure that it gets through and that those individuals and organizations are able to be added to that list to get the initial information about the survey. With regards to the communication to the public, thank you, Brenda. That's a really great point. Is there anything or any suggestions that the task force has that we could focus on, that initial announcement, or that work has started and where we're going with that? Is there any thoughts on that, or any ideas or suggestions? All right, seeing none, what I'll do is I'll touch base with Amy, and then Amy and I will reach out to you, Brenda, and we can move forward with just putting together a quick summary about what we're doing and what should be expected in the next few months with regards to the survey and that sort of thing. Item number 9, is there any new business that anyone would like to put forth? No new business. We're moving right along on this agenda today, which is great. Thank you. I did have the public communication on the roundtable discussion, as Rod was going to be stepping in a bit late. Brenda brought that up, which was fantastic. That was a great segue. But did anyone have anything to add to the roundtable discussion? See no additions to that, we'll move on to item number 11, any correspondence. Holly, are you aware of any correspondence that has gone through? I know Rod usually speaks to it, but I just assume there isn't any.
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, thank you. Just before we get to item 12, which is the next meeting date, is there anything that anyone would like to add or make any comments on today? Nope. Okay. So item number 12, the next meeting is, oh yes, Councillor Richardson.
Sorry about that. I'm just wondering, I know we got our minutes from the last meeting. Should we circulate that to the other group and vice versa so we can see if we're missing anything? Just, another set of eyes, I guess, from both sides. Yes, no?
From the, for clarity from the working groups?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we can do that.
Thank you.
Brenda wants to speak.
Go ahead, Brenda.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind you the Economic Recovery Task Force is also meeting regularly. They have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow, and those are live streamed on YouTube as well. There are going to be quite a few linkages between this task force and the Economic Recovery Task Force, especially when it comes to the impact on our workforce with limitations on childcare and what the school year will look like. So if you want to tune into that, Tom Phillips from Fleming College will be doing a presentation at the meeting tomorrow about transformational change and sort of historical knowledge that will frame where we need to go as a community for economic recovery based on all of the data. So it might be something worth catching.
And the time of that tomorrow?
I believe the meeting is at 10 a.m. Just let me check here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's good to know.
Hello, me again. Even if you do miss it, you can find the link on the website later if you can't tune in then. Because that's what I've done, is gone back and looked at them.
Okay. Brenda or maybe Holly's able to answer this. Is there, I know there's a lot of crossover. Is there any connection that, like, I know we can go on and read the minutes and that sort of thing, but if there's anything of significance that maybe we need to share with them in person and vice versa, that working that task force to share and present to us, how would we go about doing that? Other than, like, would it be staff that makes that invitation, or would it be up to Amy and I as co-chairs to make that invitation?
I'm not sure from process wise, the best way to do that. I am in contact with Rebecca Mustard quite regularly on the task forces, and we're looking at a framework and how we can develop more of a long-term vision for our entire community that will focus the efforts of both task forces very clearly. And the first step of that will be Tom Phillips' presentation tomorrow. So we have a link there at this point. We can establish a more formal link going forward, especially as these the work of both task forces starts to merge. With the workforce issues, with data. We've talked about different key performance indicators, different trend indicators that we can be looking at to say, you know, is the work we're doing making a difference, right? What impact are we making? How will we know when our local economy has recovered? How do we know our community is recovering? So what are those key indicators? Mm-hmm. So we're starting some work on that. To sort of guide the work of these groups going forward.
Okay. Thank you. It's good to know that there's a connection between both of them. Is there anything else? There seems to be a few little items, which is great. If not, just a reminder that the next meeting is Monday, August 10th.
Heather, Linda Neidham wants to speak.
Hi, sorry,
okay.
just
sorry,
thanks, Heather. Just on Brenda, back to you just for a second, because you had just with what you were talking about just now, and you previously referenced the community safety and well-being plan as a marker, and I can't find a copy of it anywhere. So I wonder if, does it already exist in some capacity? Okay, so if there's any information specifically about the plan for Kawartha Lakes that could be shared, that would be really great. Thank you.
What I have for that is a framework on how to create one. So it was provided by the province of the framework. We were just starting the process to put a steering committee together to guide the creation of that plan when COVID happened. So we're hoping that out of the work of this group, we'll have the basis for that plan. A big part of it was an inventory of organizations, which, you know, we've got a working group looking at right now. So I would see a working group being established out of this task force in the next little while to guide the creation of that plan.
That's super. I have seen the provincial framework because I've been doing research. I wonder if it might be helpful to send that link out, because I think for me it related well with looking at some of these goals within the context of a plan like that. Thank you though.
Just making some notes. Great question. Thank you, Linda. The next meeting is Monday, August 10th at 10 o'clock. I'm sending my regrets in advance for that meeting. I'll be on vacation and Amy will be back to chair that meeting. If anyone has any regrets, please send them through as well. And we look forward to seeing updates on the funding working group and the gaps assessment group and the work that happens between now and then. So great work for everybody. We really appreciate your time and efforts and expertise and knowledge and all of these to help us move forward. Unless there's anything else, would someone like to make the motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
There we go. I'll second it.
This is Councillor Ashmore. Thank you. I hope everyone has, yes, Councillor Dunn.
No, I was just seconding it for your, I didn't know if you had a
Okay.
second on that motion. That's fine.
I hope everyone has a good rest of the day and I hope everyone has a great week. Thank you all for your time today.
Thank you. Goodbye now.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.